Welcome back, Ways and Weavers, to the channel Between Doge, where today I cry. Okay, so I'm not necessarily mad that Instant Noodles has been reworked and, let's be real, nerfed, because it deserved to be, and I'm not going to argue that it didn't. I'm mostly frustrated because that whole From New Account to Diamond series that I'm about to be uploading, like, my biggest piece of advice is that literally anyone can get to Diamond or Legend with Charles Noodles, and that's literally like free. You just pay 300 to buy noodles in the first place, and then you don't even need commons. You can just use base cards and Charles especially, and that advice is kind of now good. Now, to be fair, I still think you're following my example in the free to play series is probably going to be helpful. So obviously I'm still going to be uploading them, but God, that really kind of shoots down what I'm going to be saying in those videos. God damn it. Right, well, anyway. Let's actually start from the top. I actually have kindly been provided a folder full of pre-change images just to be absolutely sure that we got the right things going on here. I have just read the changes just before I start recording now. I was going to keep some of them as a surprise, but I realised how few there were. And I'd already heard like half of them, so I'm like, whatever, I'll hear the rest of them just to make sure I get this all right. Also, I was paranoid I'd get it wrong, because apparently someone was saying that the change log for this update is once again inaccurate, just like the last update. I am a little bit nervous because I haven't spotted any inaccuracies yet, which means that I'm probably blind. However, I haven't looked at the cards on the live servers yet, so maybe. Well, we'll see. I got my crafting window over here. Our first change is Spade King. Small change, just gone from a 6/8 to a 6/9. I like it. Spade King does not high roll often. That's just the thing with it. I don't think that means that it's like it was terrible as it was or anything, but like basically I think giving Spade King better stats for the worst case scenario where it doesn't really hit much, I think it's fine. I think it's absolutely fine if Spade King is a playable card if it just kills one thing. In fact, I think that's the healthiest way that Spade King can be. So, given it +1 health, yeah, I don't know if it changes much, but I like it. It's very small, but overall positive change. Whimsalot apparently is getting a much different stat line. Going to a 3/3/4 rather than a 6 cost. That is, yeah, that's a buff. That is a buff, all right. You see, I thought Whimsalot was going to be strong last patch, and then no one used them. Now, I still think that they're somewhat underrated if literally no one used them, but I will fully admit I was wrong on that call. I thought, wait, isn't Whimsalot just better Lesser Dog? And in theory, it seems like, yeah, it's Lesser Dog with +1/+1 that also has its effect instant rather than delayed when its dust happens, that could also be prevented by transformation, burning, or silence. It's no way to prevent it. Yes, you give your units in your hand -1/-1, but the idea is obviously those units are so important to play regardless of their stats that you don't really care, is the hope. So what went wrong there? Now, obviously, I'm not sure, but I would say what went wrong is I forgot to take into account that Lesser Dog can, obviously do its effect on any kind of card, whereas Whimsalot only works on monsters, and that, I imagine, actually mattered. The other thing as well is that, to be fair, it was harder than I thought to come across a deck that actually didn't care about the stat reduction. It's kind of weird. You would have thought it'd be pretty easy. You'd just find a deck with monsters that have costs that need to be reduced, but you care more about their effect than their stats. But again, it just seems like in Undercards, it's really hard to come across even situationally, like in the right deck, cards that don't really care about their stats so much. Mostly you just want the ability. Again, it's really easy to find cards like that in other games, but in Undercards, it's always harder than you think. So I attribute it to that. I'm going to venture to guess it again. I'm going to put myself out there again, though. Now that Whimsalot is so much cheaper and even has a better stat line for cost, I would be shocked if this version of Whimsalot isn't good. I really will be. I'm not going to say for definite because I completely understand if you don't think I'm going to be right after last prediction, but I would sincerely be shocked if it's not good now. Big Hat Charles has been apparently buffed, but it doesn't look too great. Ah, wait, hang on a minute. Is this the one that's wrong? Is this the one that's wrong? No, it isn't. Okay, right, yeah. I looked at the numbers wrong. Big Hat Charles, I was about to say, has apparently been buffed, but I'm not so sure. But I just realised I was reading this in reverse. I thought it was the cost went up, but the health went up, and they considered that a buff. No, the cost went down, but the health went down. 6 cost 4/5 armor. I'll think about it with that one. Like when I'm talking about like putting it in a deck. I mean, like I honestly have looked unironically at Big Hat Charles before. I've been like, okay, armor is like really good, like really, really good on a big stat line. Like even if it's that overpriced, I might still consider it. It's like it genuinely, I think it's that big. But obviously for 7, it was like 7 for a 4/6. It is armor, but my god, yikes. This though, 6. This is interesting. I'll say this, I don't think it's going to work. I think this card still isn't going to really see play, but I don't think it's far off. I think the problem is there's no real important breakpoint for 6 gold. However, 5 gold, if it cost 5 and lost another health point, if it was a 5/4/4 armor, that'd be really good. But then that doesn't make sense because we already have Mr. Society. Is that the one, Mr. Society, or the other one? Whatever. You know what I mean? The piece that gets +1/+1 in armor or can duplicate itself, which is even better than that. So, yeah, I mean, I think Mr. Society is good, so... Anyway, yeah, I'm getting sidetracked. I think Big Hat Charles... Actually, you know what could make this good, maybe, is making it a 3/6? You know, honestly, nah. You know, the more I try and talk about this, I'm not even sure how much it's going to matter. Because, like, I think the price reduction matters because you can get it out earlier. But, like, you're not even getting it out earlier. If you're going on turn 2, then you're still playing it on turn on your third. Sorry, if you're going second, you're still playing it on turn 3. If you're going first, you're still playing it on turn 3. It's not actually any different in terms of when it comes down. It's just how much gold you save. I really want to give Big Hat Charles a chance. Again, big on armor, but I feel like you just probably still won't take him. What could be the way to take this to try and make it good is to go the opposite direction. Instead of trying to make it cheap enough that it could be good, make it so it's just a enormous armor, but it's expensive for that reason. Like, I don't know, like make it a 9 drop and make it just have a stupid amount of health and still 4 attack or something like that. Maybe that could make it good. Hell, I honestly am wondering, like, would an 11 cost like Big Hat Charles see play if, like, its health was something stupid like 15 or whatever? And I think the answer is yes. That, by the way, like, literally 15 health, that would be stupid to the point where literally that wouldn't be healthy for the game. But, like, you know, it's just as a thought experiment kind of thing. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, it just sounds like I'm scratching for things to say. I mean, to be fair, I kind of am, but like you got to realise that most of this patch, there isn't much to say because the vast majority of these changes are like they added 1 number onto this thing. So, Glad Dummy. Glad Dummy has become a 4-cost 5/4 instead of a 4-cost 5/3. Relatively insignificant, but deserved. I like Glad Dummy as a card, but like, why would you put it in a deck unless you're a new player and using it as a filler card? Now that it's a 5/4, you have some reason to use it as a new player. It is protecting itself with the taunts, which is why it still wasn't that bad as a 5/3, even though its ability wasn't very relevant, it seemed, and its stats, in theory, aren't very good. Because of the fact its ability provided taunt, the low health wasn't so much of a problem. Giving it +1 health is still good, but like, it doesn't really change much, I don't think. I mean, I like the change, I don't think it changes much. Foxhead. This is one of the more interesting ones where they just added a number, because, Yeah, that's a 3-cost deal 2 damage. No condition, really. I think that's fair, actually. There's some people thinking that's kind of overpowered. I don't know, like, it is just 2 damage. It's technically not fully targeted. You know, your opponent can play around it. And I do think that Foxhead was a very niche card without this. I don't know. Okay, like the thing is, if the game has more cards added that reward damaging monsters with pings, then maybe this is too much. But I mean, like, Foxhead was competitive in the past the way it was, like, as a 2/3 with this ability, but that was in Perseverance, back when Perseverance, like, hadn't got nerfed but just got reworked so that it dealt extra damage with KR. So, yeah. I think without that, as long as the game doesn't have that many mechanics like that, then this is fine. The only thing is, I do kind of like when the game has mechanics like that. Not as overpowered as that, but like... I mean, okay, I wasn't around for the original rework where Perseverance no longer had the poison effect they had for the longest time, where if you had KR, you took 1 damage every turn. I don't know if that was removed, if it was, like, overpowered or something, but personally, that was my favourite version of Perseverance. Although I do kind of like the current version of Perseverance. I just think the current version of Perseverance is really weird. Like, I think it's fun, but it doesn't feel like Perseverance. Like, it feels almost like this should be, like, another... Honestly... Like, I know that it wouldn't happen, but the way Perseverance plays feels like the way, like, it feels like it should be Bravery. And, well, anyway, I do like the pinging style of gameplay, but it looks like they're kind of moving away from that, and if they are, then, yeah, this buff seems fair, because without that pinging style of gameplay to support Foxhead, I think it needs to be a 3/3/3 to be playable, except in extremely niche situations. Vulcan, no, not Vulcan Cloud. Although that will be coming later. Oh my... No, Vulcan. Like, you know Vulcan? What? Wait. Oh, Vulcan's a base card. Wait, okay, I can get it to show base cards. I've been told that... For some reason, I thought this was token cards. It is, but it's also base cards. I don't know why they're in the same thing. They just are. There we go, Vulcan. Vulcan used to be a 2/4, then now a 3/4. Deserved. This card is... Like, I really don't want to call it bad, because I think any direct damage is potentially good. Especially because you can run 3 of this, because it's, you know, a base. It's not like a legendary or a rare. But, like, Ice Cap just does more damage for less. And you probably don't want this for the stats. You want this for the instant damage, so... Pardon me. Yeah, I think this doesn't change much, but I mean, I think it's a positive change for newer players. Now Vulcan isn't a dead card in their collection. Fireplace, a card I keep forgetting exists. Used to be a 6-cost 4/6, now it's a 6-cost 4/7. Transparency, shock, heal 3 health to this. Transparency is really strong, but it needs to be on a threat, like something that you're actually scared to deal with, and you're not really scared of Fireplace, really. Now, though, despite Transparency being practically relevant on this card, while it's super relevant on most other cards, I will admit that this is a scary trading tool for a lot of decks, now that it is quite this high in health. The fact it can heal itself while also trading into things, it's going to get a good first trade because of the Transparency is the one upside of it. And, you know, you could combine that with a Perseverance deck, or... I don't know, maybe if you can really protect that Fireplace, maybe even Veteran decks, you could charge it up and really make it a monster. I still think this card looks a bit memey, but I think that's just because that's just what happens to 6-drops. 6-drops, they're really hard to make work. 6 is just, it seems like that's the thing in every card game. I don't know what it is about 6, but as soon as any kind of tempo-based unit becomes 6 cost, it's like, you've got to either be stupid busted or you're not good. And Snoring Monsters, the final outright buff, now has 7 attack. I mean, I'm fine with this, I guess. I'm just surprised they decided to do it, because I felt like this card was fine already, but, what difference does 1 attack make? Lethal, that's what. Okay, but, in seriousness, I'm mostly alright with this change. I just hope that OTK casual Undying Snoring monster decks don't get too out of hand. To be fair, the 1 damage might matter for those because you can have 3 Snoring monsters, so that's 1 damage 3 times. That's 3 extra damage for the deck in total. I hope it just doesn't get too out of control. If it's not, if that deck doesn't get out of control, then this is a good change, I guess. Halberd has been reworked. Kind of an unexpected change, but Fair enough. Change. Halberd has been changed to have one more attack at the cost of losing dodge. It now has armor instead. Still the same condition. You need to play 3 or more token cards at the cost of 3 or more, and if you do that, you get 2 of them when you play them. Is this still good? I think this is a net nerf, and I think the nerf doesn't kill the card, but it feels like... It feels frustrating. I know why this change was made. It was because the dodge was annoying. And I'm not going to say that it was wrong for them to change it like this. I feel like what they replaced it with is kind of weak. I don't know. It does only cost 6, but like 5/3 armor. I do like armor, as I say, but like this is a really late armor, and I think by this late in the game, you're not really going to care about armor. Like, that's the thing. Dodge is really relevant. Like, dodge is the opposite of armor. It becomes more relevant the later into the game you get, for the most part. Because the later into the game, the higher chance of every single hit that a unit receives dealing more damage. And the fact that they're taking more damage per hit means that it's more likely for dodge to get higher value for tanking a higher damage hit. Whereas armor gets higher value off of tanking lower damage hits, which are more useful likely in the early game. So armor is something you really want to have come down early and snowball out of control, so by the time they have the damage to get through it, it's too huge to be dealt with. Here, because the condition is something you can basically never ever get done quickly, and then also the card itself is that awkward cost of 6, and then also the starting health of this card is only 3, I feel like even split across 2 bodies, the armor isn't going to be that relevant. As I say, I'm not fully against the change, because I do acknowledge the dodge was really annoying, but like, I don't know if this is it in return. I don't think it's it, Chief. Because I mean, if you just look at this, you can think of this kind of like a 6-10-6 armor, which, don't get me wrong, that's like above average, but like, as a reward for making a token deck build around, when this was already one of the weakest build around rewards for the token package, like, yeesh, it's not impressive, really, is it? It's even worse because it's not even a copy of itself it summons, it's a base copy, so you can't exactly stack hand buffs onto the halberd so that the armor becomes more useful and the copy also gets the extra use out of the armor. No, you would only get it on the original. So, I don't know, I feel like halberd is already a cut from a decent amount of token decks, and now it's just going to be cut from even more. Anyway, Mold Mega. Mold Mega. Let's just look that up. Mold Mega... Oh, okay, right, this is the mistake. I was going to say, because what I was about to say is, my god, Mold Mega got the, like, ban hammer. They just got... goodbye, but it turns out that's a mistype. Mold Mega, it says they increased the cost from 9 to 12, which obviously is why I thought, Jesus, they just nuked that card. They didn't want it to exist. But no, they increased it to 10. That's much more reasonable. So they say effect update, but I'm not sure if it has been updated, so this might be the misprint. So it still has your taunt, magic and dust, burn 4 molds in your dust pile to summon a mold big and trigger its magic. Yeah, that's exactly what it did before. We can double check that. It was for burn 4 molds in your dust pile. It was a taunt, and it has a magic and a dust. It was a mold big, and it triggers it magic. Yep, same effect. That's the misprint. Okay. Okay, phew. I don't know why I kind of forgot. Like, I read that and I realized that that seemed like the same effect, and it didn't click in my head that was the misprint for some reason. Okay. What do I think about this change? Not got much to say about it. I think it's fair. I think molds were a little strong. I don't know. I don't have much of an opinion on this one because I don't have much of an opinion on molds except that they are good. At least they were good. And now I think they are less good. But I think it's probably deserved. The only thing is I just don't know how much that one extra cost is going to hurt it. Since I know it's obviously... Although it likes sticky boards, it's still a tempo-based deck. And, like, of course... Like, if you're going second, you can't play mold... Wait, no, you won't play Mold Mega turn 3 anyway. Nah, okay, never mind. Forget what I'm saying. Yeah, it's probably... It probably doesn't change much, but that's how it should be. This card shouldn't be nuked, really, because... molds are weird. They're like... They are kind of good, but, like, Mold Mega is, like, their one, like, thing. You take away Mold Mega, and what do you do with molds? You it's like an actual bronze stat... Oh, it's not even bronze, because bronze doesn't exist, does it? It's copper in this game. It's a copper strategy. Let me just double check that. Oh, wait. I have to check on this one, because I'm not signed in over there. Double check. Yeah, it's copper, not bronze. I don't know why they don't have, like, a bronze, but sure. Well, anyway, crafting... There we go. Oh, scroll down. Alright, so Pondman statue has also been reworked. It now burns 15 or more non-token pieces in your dust pile. So basically, any piece that you didn't generate, like any piece that is actually a part of your deck, and like you can actually put it in a deck. I think Pond Queen's the only token piece, so I think basically excluding Pond Queen, it doesn't have to be Pond Men. I like that because Pond Man spam is Snorefest. But it is 15 now, which I feel that's going to be pretty hard, probably, but I don't know, maybe I'll be proven wrong. And it adds I mean, not that you can't do it, but but I just don't think you can do it very fast, and if you can't do it fast... I mean, you couldn't do it fast before, to be fair, though. Well, anyway, yeah. And then it adds a Pond Queen to your hand. Pond Queen has also changed. Honestly, the Pond Queen change, I don't have much of... I keep having things that I don't have much of an opinion on here. I don't have much of an opinion... Oh, didn't I turn this on? Oh, right, yeah, I went off the page. It went off. Yeah, there we are. Pond Queen. I don't have much of an opinion on this one either, but it does seem weird to me. They made it so now the Pond Queen is no longer a switch ability. It still gives endgame, but now it's a delay. I don't remember if it was a delay before. Actually, wait, this is why I have this. Was it a delay before? Oh, it was delay. It was always delay. Okay, right. So, yeah. So, burn 15 pieces in your dust pile to fill your hand with Pond Men. And the Pond Men have +1 dodge. Was the other option +3 health, if I remember right? Yeah, so it's not a switch anymore, basically, because they realised that everyone always wanted the dodge, I guess. And finally, Pond Men themselves have changed. This one I kind of don't get as much. They made it a 1-cost 1/1 haste with magic, switch, gain +2 HP, or heal 1 health to you. I mean, I guess I don't have a problem. I just don't know why they made the change, to be honest. I mean, I don't think this really makes a change to how usable they are usually. Does it? I mean, the only thing I could see potentially being relevant here is maybe now this is actually a half-decent 1-drop to drop at the start of the game, because it's a 1/1/3. But, like, that's not much to say about it. So, yeah, I don't know. We got a nerf to a spell. Apparently they decided Pollutant Gas needed a nerf. I imagine that is deck-specific, because I can't think of any like situation where Pollutant Gas is particularly overpowered. If anything, it felt a little bit on the weaker side to me. But I imagine there's some certain deck where it goes off hard if this is getting the nerf. I thought this would be a rework, if anything, if they were going to change it. I'm surprised they literally were just like, yeah, let's just take that cost and boink it up to 4. And then, of course, Instant Noodles. We mourn. Instant Noodles is completely different. Oh, they misprinted again, did they? Okay. Instant Noodles is a 4-cost spell, apparently. In your hand, it says -1 cost for each monster in both players' dust piles. Give all monsters in your hand +1/+1. If this costs 4 and not 12, then this might actually be fine, then. Okay. So the artifact now also puts it in your hand at the start of the game instead of in your deck. But there's only 1 copy now instead of 2. If you could play a dust pile stacking deck, you could get this pretty cheap pretty fast and still use this to get big Charles early. Nah, it's not the same though, is it? It's not the same. Probably a still half-decent artifact just because it's very easy to get this to cost 0. And if you can do that, it's just an artifact that like provides a very tangible and unconditional benefit. Whereas a lot of other artifacts can have some very weird and abstract ways of potentially giving you their value, which sometimes can make them hard to fit in a deck. I'm looking at you, preservation, but this right here is pretty straightforward. Clearly hand buff support as well. Don't know. I wonder though, like, do you just use this in mid range now? Does aggro drop noodles now? Because I don't know if aggro wants to stop to spend gold on this unless they can make it free. But then if they want to make it free, they've got to fill up their dust piles really quickly for the hand buff to actually be relevant. Because obviously you want to drop everything in your hand pretty quickly with aggro. So, yeah, you probably drop instant noodles in aggro. Instant noodles is probably now something that you mostly use if you're mid range or if you're a control deck that gets huge value off of hand buffs. I think now. Weird change. Very weird. Okay, it's a good thing it wasn't 12 because my god, if it was 12, I was going to talk about how outrageous it is that you need 12 monsters in the dust pile just to get +1/+1 on your monsters, and you could at least make it so we still get 2 noodles instead of 1, if that was the case. Well, anyway, we're basically already done. This was a very short patch. They also listed a few fixes. This is kind of new, but none of them seem to be very important. They removing negative effects. Apparently was causing some people to have their monsters be fully healed, which has been fixed now. Disconnecting from the game doesn't make you lose friendship. Preservation now works correctly. I heard apparently, what's up with that? I never tried this myself, but apparently the preservation artifact, when they updated it, they accidentally made it so that it doesn't actually do anything. All it does is it prevents the burn animation from triggering. As in, you don't see yourself burning and overdrawing your cards, so it looks like it's working, because, you didn't see a card get overdrawn. But then if you actually pay attention to your deck, you're actually still losing those cards, you just don't see it anymore. So it was literally an artifact that did nothing. Dog Cone no longer removes negative effects sometimes. Apparently it just sometimes did that, which is weird. Endgame now only works in pieces. I'm very curious to find out what that one's about. I imagine there must have been some card in the game that was accidentally considered a piece, so Endgame could trigger on it. If you get a shiny Shadow Crystal from a shiny Shawm, you can now look at all shiny legendaries instead of getting a normal legendary. Just a nice little change to improve things. Apparently, and this is hilarious, apparently Jigsawries were capable of killing enemy Jigsawries on summon. If you don't know what a Jigsawry does, Jigsawry. Oh. It's a 3-cost 3/4 where whenever you summon a Jigsawry of your own, you kill it to give the first Jigsawry its stats. So the idea is you stack all your Jigsawries together into one huge Jigsawry. And apparently there was a glitch that allowed you to also eat your enemy's Jigsawries, which is hilarious. And Red Flower rarity fixed. What was its rarity? Oh, Token. That is a collectible card, I believe. Oh, no, it isn't. No, sorry, yeah, no, of course it isn't. What am I about? Wait, so what's the change? Oh, wait. Oh, okay, right. Apparently it's just because originally it had the Undertale icon when it's from Deltarune, so, yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, that's the patch.